Hey everyone, welcome back to The Gap. A topic that I really wanted to discuss as an immigrant was the idea of food. Now, normally when you move away from your country, away from your family, away from your loved ones, food is one of the basic things that ties you back to your ethnicity, to your culture, to your background. Food is something that is universally understood and accepted. It is a bond that joins not just people within your own ethnicity and within your own cultural background, but it also acts as an ambassador to other people and helps them share in the different cultures around the world. Food is a language that helps us communicate with one another. One of the issues that almost all immigrants would agree that they face when they come into any other country is that they lack the access to authentic cuisine that they are used to. Whether you're away from family, you don't have the skills to cook the same way that your mom does. Most of us don't. Food is one of those things that brings you joy and brings you warmth at a time when you might be feeling low. In that whole scheme of things, getting access to the groceries that might be required, you cannot get the right kind of groceries, or there are certain ingredients that you might not have access to in your usual supermarket. And for that, where do you go? You go to your trusted ethnic grocery store that's around your neighborhood, your mom and pop shops, or people from your own background who have set up shop in a lot of the different areas. It's something that usually flies under the radar. We don't think too much about it, but the importance of these small ethnic shops cannot be overstated. They provide us with access to food that might be associated with your childhood memories. It might be something that you look back fondly upon, and especially during our religious holidays or ethnic holidays, especially during our rituals and customs and religious holidays, food and these kind of ingredients, the access to them is something that can create a huge amount of joy for you, and it can provide you with a little bit of closeness to the people that you're usually away from, your loved ones. So keeping that in mind, I wanted to do a conversation with somebody who is within the ethnic grocery or ethnic retail environment. And for that reason, today's guest is Mr. Harry Kohli.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thank you so much for coming on. So a little background to Harry is that he is the owner and manager of SINGH'S Food Warehouse. It is like I said, it's a grocery retail store that specializes in ethnic foods, particularly coming from South Asia. What I want to understand, what does it take to run a business such as his? It's a field that maybe a lot of other immigrants might be thinking of. If you have a small business idea, hey, an ethnic grocery store, you can't go wrong with it, with the amount of immigrants that are coming into the country. So keeping that in mind, I'm hoping that this podcast is going to be instructive. It's going to be insightful, and how somebody can learn from the years and years of experience that he has of running a successful grocery store, and we can understand how the business actually works. So without further ado, Harry Kohli.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, look, definitely in a business, this type of business, you need a lot of mental capacity. I mean, that's no bullshit. You need a big, strong mindset, especially, as you know, with South Asian cooking, there's a lot of different ingredients involved. There's a lot of different products now compared to what it was 20 years ago.
Of course.
And the market has changed from what it was growing up in early 2000s to what the market is now. Since the inception of our store last year in May, it's been over a year, we've seen such a change in trend of customer base that's coming into our store. For example, like yourself, you come into the store, you would have seen a lot of different products, a variety of products from, let's say, Bangladesh, or from South India, or from North India, or even Pakistan, or Sri Lanka. So one of the key things of owning and operating a store like this, you try to have to cater for our whole South Asian Pacific clientele.
Yeah, of course.
It's not just one size fits all. So, and what that does as well, when you have a large format store like ourselves, then it means your inventory grows, and like that means you have to have systems in place, you have to have staff in place, you have to have security in place. So like there's a lot of moving parts that you have to think about, which we did when we started our business end of December, when we wrote down a business plan. So we went through, I guess, the big learning curve for any new business people who are looking to start a store or anything is just write down a 1 or 2 page business plan just to see, okay, who am I catering for? Is there a gap in the market? What are my competitors? How far are my competitors?
Yeah.
And how can I be different in the market?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was our key thing as well when we started this store.
Yep.
Is like, how can we be different? So you've seen the store. Like, we try to be different to any other store. We try to be like more the IGA style format, but you still get the same prices. You get good service. And we invested a lot actually in our frozen and cool room section of the store. Going back to the point, 20 years ago, there was hardly any frozen items.
Any frozen items, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot more brands and a lot more options out there available now, especially coming out of the South Asian market. Like
That's right. Yeah, so there's a lot of exports coming out of South Asian market in the frozen goods section. So we invested a large freezer, cool room, because now we have the access of ready-to-eat meals. You pretty much microwave and eat, and you'll have that same taste as you would have back home, or even better.
My opinion would differ.
Sometimes
my opinion would differ,
close,
but at least we have options now.
We have options. We have
now.
options. That's the main thing.
Look, as much as I want to get into understanding the business itself, I want to try and understand the person that you are first. So I have a look because we talked about this off air before when we first met, and you have a very interesting background coming into Australia, coming into the grocery business. So that is something that I would like to pick on first, just to lay the groundwork of what the business actually is and how you fall into it. So Harry, if you take us back to, were you born in Australia or were you born overseas?
So I was born in India.
You were born in India?
I was just turning 6 and we moved to New Zealand initially in 1996. So I was born in 1990. And then, we moved to New Zealand in 1996.
So you guys went to New Zealand first?
Yeah, so from India, we moved to New Zealand. My father had some sort of dream. He's like, yep, let's go overseas. Let's move the whole family. And we're based from Chandigarh. So originally I was born in Chandigarh.
Yeah.
1996, we moved to New Zealand, our whole family. I've got an older sister, my mother. And so initially, obviously, as a new immigrant, from what I remember as well, being younger, my father started doing pizza deliveries, and then he was always business minded as well, because he had businesses back in Chandigarh which he had sold up. He used to actually own a Dunlop factory.
Okay.
So completely opposite to what he is now. He used to own a Dunlop truck, the tire retreading. They retread all the tires that come in for the transport.
Yep.
So he sold all that up, and then decided to move to New Zealand, and then he contacted Haldiram's, which you've probably heard of.
Yes,
Haldiram's,
of course.
Yeah, who has it's literally a household name.
Household name.
So he started, I remember, importing Haldiram's, got in contact with the company, started wholesaling Haldiram's in New Zealand in 1996, end of 1996, 97. And I remember vaguely, it was just from 2 boxes he started from our garage.
Okay.
We used to live in Auckland. Started from 2 boxes, and there from he grew. Yeah, and as demand grew as well, because for people as well back then, as you can imagine, in late 90s, they never had no options. Yeah, there wasn't much of imports coming into the country. Even in the late 90s, I believe, you hardly heard of anyone from South Asia who used to immigrate to Australia or New Zealand. Yeah, no. like people would go to Europe, people would go to America for sure, but hardly anyone used to come to Australia or New Zealand back then. The way I would say it is like, it's obviously we're in the opposite side of the world, literally. Yeah. So there's a large South Asian, I guess, population in UK. So you feel a bit more comfortable. When we moved to New Zealand, like when I was growing up, there's a lot of racism because not many people, and I used to have a turban as well. So had to go through all that. You learn as a person, you become stronger. And I mean, from what it is now, today's day, we pretty much are a well-connected community, and part of that is obviously the internet as well. Back then, they didn't have much of a knowledge or not much awareness of multiculturalism as well, and especially I've seen this in Australia as well. That even if you go to some of the regional areas, even today, where people don't have direct contact with immigrants as such, nobody's going to be directly racist to your face, but there would still be a kind of hesitation there, in the way they treat you or the way they talk to you. Or you go talk to somebody in English, they'd actually be surprised. Hey, how can you speak English so well? I mean, you don't know how to respond to something like that. So it's good to see that change over the last, let's say, 20, 30 years. But back when we moved to New Zealand, it was racism was prominent. Like, so that was normal. Paint me a picture. Growing up in how long were you in New Zealand for? So we were only there for 5 years. Okay. So it's from 1996 to 2001. So, but you would have gone from age 6 to age 11 during that time, right? So that's the kind of
time frame where you develop your childhood memories, right?
That's
And
right.
your basic schooling, your childhood friends.
Yeah.
So paint me a picture of New Zealand. What's New Zealand like?
Look, New Zealand was a wonderful country to live in. It had 4 seasons in one day, like everyone
Okay.
says. It rains, hails, shine in one day.
Yeah.
Look, it was a nice, beautiful, relaxing country to live in, but not much opportunity in the sense that there wasn't much growth. Like, because you can tell with obviously the amount of population that's in a country. New Zealand's whole population is pretty much the population of Sydney
Yeah. Of
in
course.
today's day.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what it was back 20 years ago. So that's, I think, one of the other reasons as well where my dad also decided, let's look at Sydney. And that was in late 2001 where we decided to make the move. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was successful with his business. He distributed Haldiram's and quite few other products all across New Zealand, and he was the first person to set that up
Yeah.
in New Zealand. And he was offered Haldiram's here, but he was like, at that time we were young, and he felt like that he missed out a lot of our younger years because of that.
Yeah.
So he decided to give that up and said, no, I'll do something different, and moved over in 2001 and started wholesaling rice.
Wholesaling rice, okay.
So predominantly Lal Killa rice. We've got to tie up with that company.
Sure.
So we do wholesales of that and a couple of other brands that are our own brands. So Taj, Golden Temple, that's our own brand that we have in our market.
And you guys moved, what year was this when you guys moved?
2001.
2001. So
That's
that
right.
is, again, just post the Olympics, that
That's
was around the time when Australia really hit its stride and
That's right.
opened up its borders, and multiculturalism was flourishing,
right.
and a lot more people coming in.
I think a lot of people saw what Australia was after those Olympics
Yes,
as well.
yes.
It kind of put it on the world stage, like map.
Exactly.
Everyone had this painted picture of Australia.
Yep.
And there was a lot of that big immigration from New Zealand, from India, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from all the South Pacific countries as well. And at that time in 2001, there wasn't much around in Sydney as South Asian community.
Yeah.
So in 2001, when my dad came in, mum came in, the whole family came in, they decided to start a retail store, which was in 2002. And that was called SINGH'S Food and Spices.
And where was this?
This was in Blacktown.
In Blacktown.
Yeah. So they ran that for about 3-4 years. And that became very famous as well because they were actually known for their service to the community, and, it was quite local, and there wasn't many shops around at that time
Yeah.
of that size as well. So they did about 3-4 years. And of course, retail is very demanding, and it was very impacting the family as well. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get much time. Like, I never hardly saw them. My sister never hardly saw them.
Yeah.
I remember my mum used to pick me up from school and drop me off. That's the only time I'd see them.
Yeah.
Because with retail trade, it's pretty much like 9 to 7, 9 to 8 every day.
And of course, even when they came back home, the business is all they would talk about.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's 20, but look, that's part of business, right?
Yeah.
It's either you choose the business life, it's never switching off.
Yeah, true.
So
That's the trade-off of doing a project or something for yourself, right?
that's right. That's the trade-off.
There's no off switch.
Yeah, there is no off switch. So initially, look, I didn't enter the business. Obviously, I was young as well. I used to work at the store sometimes as a little kid, just for fun, I decided to study, and so I did my high school here at St. Andrews, which was in Marion. And then I decided to go to university. Also got a diploma, and I decided to do a property economics degree, which was completely opposite to obviously getting in the family business.
Getting in the family business. Okay, at this point, I have to ask, like, usually kids who grow up in this environment, they end up resenting the family business to a degree. Was that you?
No, look, it wasn't about resenting. I actually wanted to step away early on and learn and have more of a social and like learn from myself. Because I get where you're coming from. I've seen that plenty of times where
I guess maybe resenting would not be the right word, but because you've been exposed to something for so long from such an early age,
you just don't want to do it.
You just don't want to do it.
Yeah. So that wasn't me. It wasn't that fact that I didn't want to do it. I knew in myself, I know this is going to sound so cliche, I just wasn't ready for it. Because I remember I did do a stint in the business for a year, and I knew myself I wasn't ready, I'd all constantly have arguments with my dad, like, no, let's do it this way. No, this is this way.
Right.
Things like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm probably not ready because he has a certain set of skills. He knows that works in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then I'll put in new things, and that's my way.
Yeah.
So I decided to work in the property field. I worked for Savills. Initially I worked for CBRE, which is a large property company. And then I worked for Savills. And then after that I worked for Mirvac.
And what was your position in these companies?
So with CBRE, I started off, that was my after uni job. I started doing off the plan sales. So selling apartments off the plan.
Okay. Right.
So they had, CBRE is massive. CBRE, their project team is by far the biggest in the world, like
It is.
worldwide. And so I was going around selling off the plan apartments like all over Sydney. So whether it be North Sydney, Carlingford, even Rydalmere, wherever the project was,
Yep.
we had certain allocated projects and we'll sell off the plan. We had certain plans. You'd learn about the project and what was included in it. And and then after that, I was like, I'm not very, I was very analytical guy
Yeah.
from the beginning. I'm all about numbers. Like,
Yep.
you know, I love my Excel sheets.
Okay.
So I was like, look, this is not me. Like, some people are good at it. Some people are good at selling emotions.
Yeah, of course.
You know, they can, and there's a lot of people out there in real estate.
Yeah.
They love to sell the emotion, the dream.
They sell the dream, exactly.
dream.
The dream of having your own home.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So look, I was at that point, I was like, that's not me. Like, it's because there's an element to it where you
Yeah.
really have to bullshit sometimes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was exactly going to say
You really
that.
have to bullshit to get the sale. And
Yeah.
I was like, if I was in that shoes, I really don't want to be doing that.
and in this day and age, like a lot of times people can see right through it.
Yeah.
People can see right through, like you're trying to be genuine, but people can see that, okay, the sale is what you're actually after.
That's right. Yeah, that's
know?
right. So look, I did that stint for like a year and a half. I was good at it. Like, I wasn't bad. I was good at it. Then I was
Yeah.
like, I want to get into more analytical stuff.
Yep. enough.
So I actually, after that, I joined a small firm called Cohen Handler, which was, it's actually Australia's largest buyer's agency right now.
Okay.
So I don't know, have you heard of buyer's agency?
Yeah.
Yeah. So buyer's agents representing the buyer, not the sellers. So I did that for a year, which was in commercial property. So we had clients like all over the world, even high net worths, and they were looking to park their money. Let's say we had this one client from Indonesia. He was worth probably like $1 billion. He was in manufacturing pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
And he was looking to buy a $39 million hotel. So those are the type of clienteles that we dealt with. It was good exposure.
Yep.
And you learned quite a lot. Learn in the corporate world how to do tenders, how to do bidding,
Yeah.
how to do the numbers, how to do the math, how do you present yourself as a person. So you learn those skills, like how to talk to people.
Client handling, stakeholder management, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So like before, when I was little, I wasn't very confident as public speaking. So because the element of it is public speaking. So when you go through that process of tendering in front of big people, as in like high influential people, you're like, you really got to step up the game.
Yeah,
so
of
you
course.
start to learn being more confident in public speaking. How do you present the information? How does it go by when vocally? So yeah, that was a good learning curve, a good skill that I had, that I learned over the time. And then I decided to join Savills, which I joined as a senior analyst in the office leasing team. So that job entailed of me pretty much working in the background for the large tenders and bids going out for the big office buildings in the city.
Okay.
So that is also a big process in itself. A lot of people think that, that's a big office building. Like, they don't know the ins and outs of how it actually operates, like the large tenants.
Yep.
So a lot of the large office buildings, like you have Combank, you have Salesforce, you have Deloitte, you have large law firms, and the mechanics behind it is, okay, they'll have a 10, 15-year lease.
Yep.
They'll have, let's say, fit out contribution. If they get money when they sign up to a lease to fund their fit out, a new office. So I worked in the background for Savills because Savills was brokering deals for these clients.
Yep.
So I did that for 2 years and learned a lot of things along the way as well, which was, again, bidding and tendering and how to present yourself.
Yeah.
Because this time now I was presenting in front of large institutional owners like Dexus
Right.
or Mirvac.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then after that, decided to go to Mirvac, landed a job at Mirvac, and that was completely the opposite.
Okay.
Which was asset management. And I looked after 5 buildings in the city. And that was, again, the inner mechanics of how to operate a building.
Yeah, the building management systems, basically.
Building management systems, facilities management,
Yep.
what requires repairs and maintenance, but also the financial side as well. So if someone's lease is coming up, how you can negotiate with them with the new lease and things like that. So
this is all completely very different to what I've ever been exposed to.
Yeah.
It's fairly interesting.
Yeah, because as a civil engineer, it's completely the opposite.
Completely the opposite.
Yeah.
We just make the buildings.
You just make the buildings.
you guys
you
run
just
it.
plan them out, they build it for you.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think about, like, now that you mention it, I think about, all of those massive office buildings out in the city or any of the massive malls. Like, there's a huge mechanism going at the background of how all of these things are running, right?
Like, before I entered the industry, I just never really thought how it all worked.
Yeah.
Or like any normal person would think like, okay, there must be a team, but like how much involvement happens in operating the building.
And how many huge systems are running in the background.
That's right.
It's not just individuals and teams, it's also like complete systems. That are operating behind that.
Yeah.
Okay. So eventually you would have let go of all of that and you decided to join up with the family business.
So I let go of that, which now in today's day, everyone would think, especially with the property market, the way it's going.
Yeah.
They were like, why'd you leave? Like, I always get that. I was like, why'd you leave? I was like, you know what? It was the right time, the calling to enter the family business. And I feel like obviously my dad's age, he was getting older and it's like, okay, let's start expanding the business a bit more. Because obviously he was just doing it to what he's comfortable with. He doesn't really need to expand and go take risks when he's at a certain age. You know, you get to a certain age, you just want to do that you're comfortable and you enjoy doing it.
Yeah, because it's also like you have to consider the fact that where he started from, he grew it to the stage that it was now. So for him, at his age, it would have been, more than enough that, okay, I built this with my own hands.
Yeah.
And then eventually for you to step in or for any other child to step in and take that business further and bring in new, fresher ideas. Yeah. I think, like you said, I think it was the right time.
Yeah. Well, you put it perfectly. If you put it in a graph, right? My dad started here, ended up here. I've entered here. Now I want to take it here.
Yeah, of course.
So that's
how family businesses grow.
Yeah,
it's a relay race.
Yeah,
one generation.
It is a relay. It's past the batten. Like in Olympics, you pass the baton.
One generation to the next.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you and what year was this when you joined up?
Well, I actually joined up only 3 years ago now. 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
Just before COVID.
Okay.
And it's been going good so far. We've introduced a lot more products on our wholesale side, but also we did the inception of the store, which was a large project in itself.
Yeah, I was setting up a whole new store and everything. Okay.
Because I had that knowledge of property.
Yeah.
That came in hand on how to negotiate the lease and everything.
Yeah, so now that we're getting into the business side of it, right? Now, for a lot of people out there, right, including myself, who have ever thought about, okay, someday when I have enough money, I'm going to set up a business for myself, right? And invariably, any immigrant who ever thinks about setting up a business, a grocery store is something that always comes up. Yeah. Because it's very straightforward. You understand the products, you understand the demand for them, and you understand the customer to a certain extent who would come to you, right?
That's right.
It's
because you'll connect with them.
You connect with them. It's comfortable, right? So, for somebody to actually realize this idea of coming up with a grocery store.
Yep.
We'll listen to your story, of course, but at the same time, we want to try and understand what is it that actually takes to set up a successful grocery business or a retail business, for example, specifically targeted towards your community.
Look, any new person entering into the business, like I said before, there's a lot of mental patience, a lot of, I'd say, study behind it as well, is knowing your customers, where the customer base is at, because that's key. Like, obviously you want to deter away from a competition because you want to be unique as well, but it's good. It's healthy to have competition as well. So like you'd see in Sydney market, it's completely different to Melbourne. Sydney market, you have Blacktown, Wentworthville, then you have Campbelltown area, and then it's like separated all far away. So in terms of our demographic, we were like very constricted. Like we live in a very demographical areas, like our community. So this is where we did the study, which is for anyone like new opening up a business as well, is to think about how you can be different. Just do the research. Yeah. And a lot of that research you can do online. Like let's say I would look at ABS, Bureau of Statistics. Okay, where people are spending money. You can. There's a lot of tools that you can use these days compared to what it was 20 years ago. Yep. Access to information, and you can just go into other stores as well, see how they're performing, see what products are coming in as well. I tend to do that as well. Sometimes I'm out in the market for wholesale as well, and I see what's going on in the market, because that's how you get to know your product and get to know what's going in the market.
Okay, so speaking of the market, this is one question that I had, right? I mean, I on a larger scale, I understand the wholesale business, right? Or that there must be 3 or 4 different players in the market who are selling to most of the stores out there. So give me a rundown of what the wholesale landscape in Sydney is like for ethnic groceries.
Look, there's a lot of opportunity. There's always opportunity. Okay. Everyone's got a piece of the pie. That's the way I see it. Again, yes, there are big, large players. They're like, you got Katoomba Foods, who's massive. They import a lot of the large famous brands like MDH, Wild Bakri. And there's obviously got Haldirams in the market. So you have these brands that capture pretty much drive your store foot traffic. Yeah. there's certain products that you can't run the store without. They're the essential products.
Of course.
The essential brands that you'll see back at home.
Yep.
So as any wholesaler, you want to see if you can capture a market, bring those products into the market and see, start slow, start small and see if you can capture the market that way. Wholesale is I'll be honest, very tough at the moment, the way the market it's going, because it's all based on US dollar as well.
Yep.
So you have to look at trading.
Yeah.
So what before was 75 Aussie dollars to US is now 65. So that impacts your cash flow.
Yeah.
And that makes prices go up. And then obviously at the same time, we have inflationary issues in Australia where prices are already going up with expenses.
Sure.
So there's a lot of factors that you have to research into before like starting a wholesale business. Luckily, obviously, we've been in the business for a long time. But for any new player, those are a lot of the factors you need to consider before putting money into that business.
Yeah. I would imagine that for anybody starting out, I think starting out retail would be easier and more convenient compared to going for the wholesale market.
Look, again, it's depending on like the type and size of retail store you want to open as well. If you're doing a large format store, definitely you'll need a team of people. You can't just do it yourself.
You can't do it
It's
yourself.
just, for your health, mental health, everything, just physically is just not possible.
And even to make it worthwhile for yourself financially, in the wholesale business, you'd have to land large volumes.
Yes, definitely.
To make it worthwhile.
Definitely.
Because anybody who would want to start a wholesale business would have to put in a huge capital up front.
That's right.
To get those volumes.
That's right. That's the risk you have to put forward.
Exactly.
It's either the bank's money or your own money. That's how it works.
Whereas compared to like in a retail environment, the risk or the capital that you have to pay up front is a lot less.
It's a lot less, but it's more rotational.
Rotational, yeah.
So usually with the wholesale accounts these days, they run on 30 days every month. But these days it never runs on 30 days. People pay later, 60 days, 90 days. And that's with every business.
So for a lot of people who might be listening, if somebody has the idea if somebody is toying with the idea that I want to start a retail business, right? Or a small grocery business.
Yes.
But they have absolutely no past experience or no knowledge where to start.
Yep.
What's the basic roadmap for somebody like that? How do you synthesize the idea or develop a business plan for something like that?
That'll be very difficult just because you've got no idea.
Yeah.
Naturally. I would put the easiest way is probably, let's say someone new coming from overseas is probably work in the field for a bit, just so you can get the idea of how operationally how it works, familiarize with the products. Obviously the products, because what we tend to know about products wise, the standard products, it's much more than that, inventory wise. So I would definitely recommend working in a store somewhere just to get familiarized, even if it's part-time, casual or full-time. And then if you're toying with the idea of actually investing into a retail business, then you can start to kind of develop that business plan and say, okay, this is going to cost me X, Y, Z. Who are my customer base?
Yep.
What's my target market?
Yep.
How am I going to be different? What products am I going to be offering? So those are the type of questions you can start to have if you've got the idea and you've got a bit of investment money you want to put towards.
And speaking of which,
yes.
sorry, what kind of investment are we talking about? Let's say you want to start a store, somewhere within a strip mall or something. Right. And you're trying to come up with, a basic inventory. Just the basic groceries, maybe a meat section, a frozen section or something like that. What kind of capital are we talking about?
Look, any small grocery store will probably set you back. I'm talking about, let's say, size-wise. I can talk to you by size-wise. 100, 150 square meter store costs you probably about $500,000-$600,000.
500, 600.
Probably a large format, 400 to 500, even 600 square will cost you about $1.5 million, $2 million.
And this is where you're owning the store?
Just putting your investment into it.
Just putting your investment.
Yeah. So that's not owning it. So that's also leasing the premises and then fitting out shelving or whatever it may be. It's just obviously the larger format stores is going to. I'm just giving a rough estimate. It's not
of course,
just a rough guide. But yeah, like if you're looking for a large store, it'll probably cost you $1.5 million, $2 million just to lay out capital and start operating, and then you'll have to put in the hard yards 2-3 years to see that investment coming back.
Yeah, right. But for that period, you need to have a buffer in place.
Yes.
That I'm willing to sustain this much before I actually start seeing some money out of the business. So what is that period like?
Look, in general, from in business, it's probably about 2 to 3 years. You don't look to make any money.
Yeah, of course.
You probably look to break even and then you're happy with that.
Yeah.
After the 3-year period that's when you're kind of, I guess, your fruits are flowering. Like, that's when you should start really looking at, okay, am I getting profits in? If you're not getting any net profits in, then something's wrong. There's something going on. But 2 to 3 period on average is what you're going to be looking at before you can start seeing some profits back into the business. And that, again, that's just a general rule of thumb.
Yeah. So, and what kind of, obviously in order to set up a business such as this, you would need to pass through some rules and regulations that are set up by either the council or the government in general.
That's right.
So what kind of, for a retail grocery business such as yourselves, what are the kind of allowances that need to be made?
Look, there's a big chunk of it actually when you go through, like, for example, what we experienced. Like, we went through the designing phase, submitting that into council via CDC. So that's by private certification, not through the council itself. We didn't require DA, which was good, which is a development application.
Yep.
CDC is a bit more easier, a bit more lenient on that sense, where a private certifier will come out, check the premises to make sure everything's as per law, as per guidance. So those type of allowances, you need to factor probably 1 or 2% of your build cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Thumb rule. So yeah, look, those like certification issues that you might get through, you might not get through if you're not based in a shopping mall. Because we're based in a shopping mall, we had a bit more regulation overarching us.
Yeah. Obviously, because the mall has to operate at a certain standard anyway.
Yeah. Whereas if you find a shop, let's say a retail store out freestanding somewhere, like a freestanding area in a suburb, you won't have that much scrutiny as what we would through, or any shop would in a retail store.
Yeah.
So that's another thing for people to factor is that, you'll be scrutinized if you go to a shopping mall. It's a bit more tough.
But at the same time, the footfall in a shopping mall would be much larger than
it has its pros and cons. It has its pros and cons. Like, if you have a freestanding store, you might not get as foot traffic because you have to bring customers in. People are not going there just for no reason. People go there for as destination. A shopping mall, people are already going there because there's multiple stores already. So they're like, okay, let's check out this store or that store.
Yeah.
So you have that benefit, that pro in having a shop in a mall. But then also it's a bit more expensive because they know they're getting that foot traffic.
Yeah, of course.
So someone like a Westfield, they charge premium rents.
Yeah, premium.
For that reason, because they bring people in. They bring people into the center. And the way they operate as well, like if you've got a shop in the center, they won't allow another similar shop.
Yep.
So let's say we've got an Indian grocery, there won't be another Indian grocery in that same mall. Yeah. It's because the way retail shopping centers work is they like to keep a mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the shopping mall itself regulates the amount of competition that is generated within the mall.
That's right. Because they want to provide a offering to its customers where they can go fresh fruits, Indian groceries, or meats, butchery. You know?
Right.
You don't want to have 5 butchers in the same mall. You know what I mean? So they want to regulate how much.
Speaking of butchery, has the question obviously occurred to you at all that you might want to set up a halal section for the meats?
We looked into it, but again, because the handling gets much more, that means a lot more machinery, investment in machinery, a lot more. I guess you need to hire a butcher, a good butcher as well, and then also it's a whole new ball game. Because it's pretty much a butcher is a business in a business then. Yeah. You know? So then we decided, okay, how about we just keep frozen meats? So we'd still get halal meats, but we just keep it frozen.
In the frozen section.
In the frozen section. So in our store, we never said, we're not going to keep this because of vegetarian customers. Yeah, look, we respect everyone. Yeah. And everyone's requirements. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that customer won't get that food because they're vegetarian. Yeah. You know? So that's the concept we went through. I mean, I know, look, I'm not talking down any other shop. That's their option. They want to do it. But like our store, we said we'll keep everything. Yeah. So we actually also looking at keeping alcohol as well, keeping meats, halal meats. Yeah. So we're keeping everything.
That's the thing. I mean, even with the large retail stores, you have a variety of everything. Yeah. You have halal meat selling on one side and pork selling on the other. So
that's right. So look, it's not like they're saying, oh no, that's bad for you. We're just saying, no, we respect one culture and also another culture.
Customer is a customer.
Customer is a customer. And we don't want to bound the customer and say, no, you can't get this here because of this XYZ. Because it's partly discriminatory because you're saying
it is.
You know, so that's why, So in the next couple of months, we're actually launching alcohol as well. Yeah. So we're just waiting on licensing. So you'll be able to buy whiskey, beer, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Especially coming into the summer months. So that's our next project.
And are you guys going to be stocking like specifically like Indian spirits?
We will have Indian spirits, but we also have just local, the most popular ones like your Tui's New, like beers and Coronas and things like that.
Sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
Once a person has set up this business idea, let's suppose they found a location and right, how can somebody get in touch with wholesalers or basically scout out the best deal of where to get wholesalers from? Is there some kind of platform that you can access? How much has digitization played a role in revolutionizing the grocery business and the supply chain in that case?
At the moment, in the wholesale business, especially in the ethnic market, there's no central platform.
Okay. Business opportunity there.
It is a business opportunity there, but then also I think there'll be a deterrence of competition as well, because a lot of the wholesalers are bringing products that other wholesalers are bringing in as well. Yeah. So whereas some wholesalers have exclusivity of bringing that product in directly from the company, like we do, like for example, right? Yeah. So yeah, look, that is actually a good opportunity, business opportunity, bringing a central database. The easiest way for someone new is just visiting the shop, simply looking at back of the label. It will say who it was imported by, because food regulation wise you have to have a imported label, where it comes from, and a batch code and expiry date, blah blah blah. So that's the easiest way, and you can contact that company directly and just say, look, I want to start a wholesale account. How do I go about doing that? That's the easiest way. Luckily with us, obviously we're in the wholesale game we've had all the contacts anyway, but for someone new, that's the way to go about it.
And coming back to what you said earlier, I guess getting in with somebody who is part of the game and learning off of them, I think for any career or any kind of business, I think that's the best way to learn.
That's right.
Try to understand, try to develop contacts out of their contacts, or within that circle. Right. Okay, so again, if somebody's set up a business account and everything, and like you said, location, scouting out your research, doing your valuation of where, product placement, price, and all of that. Once that is done, now, do you guys now also think about leveraging social media or digital marketing into that, or do you still rely more on the traditional manners of the word of mouth?
Word of mouth,
because with ethnic, I asked that because with ethnic stores, word of mouth is the biggest influencer.
It is. It always will be. It actually always will be, because
it's a niche market.
It's a niche market, and because we've actually, since the inception of that business, our retail business, they've always, predominantly of our customers that were coming in, they're saying, yeah, we heard about it from a friend. It wasn't like, oh, we saw you online. It was all about, someone told us XYZ that, oh, you opened a store here. So that was a big part of it, but we never stopped. We didn't say no to doing social media. So we did social media advertising, Facebook, Instagram, so which is still going on. Look, that's part of business now, social media, any social platform. And we also started our own online website, so for deliveries and pickup as well.
So you guys are offering delivery at the moment?
We're doing delivery and pickup as well. So we do have a nominal charge on our deliveries, but we're offering a service you get same day, which we are kind of like absorbing for our customers, just an extra service. And then we also have partnered with the likes of DoorDash as well. So you can go on DoorDash and you can buy anything from our store on DoorDash. So we've got about 6,000 products in that store, and you can go on DoorDash and buy that.
Perfect. Perfect. Interesting. I suppose, getting into something like this, it's always daunting. Always scary. Starting something for yourself, whether it's a grocery store or any kind of business, getting into it. But like you said, getting in, failing, learning off of that, making better plans, making better judgment calls.
I think the cliche there was, this is the biggest cliche. It's like, how they say, walk before you run.
Yes.
That was actually, sometimes I was, I was doing that. I was running too fast. Like I had so many ideas. I'll do this, do that, and then you'd come back to say, no, take it back. Take it slow. Take it slow.
But you kind of realize that. I think that's also a part of maturity, and with age, you realize that life, no matter what you do in life, it's always a marathon, rather than a sprint.
That's right. It could be anything.
It's better to go slow and steady and get farther ahead than trip and fall if you're trying to get too big too quickly. Something like that.
And even in the retail business, on that note, like there's a lot of people that have started businesses and they were successful, and then what they decide to do is they'll quickly open 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then what that happens is it impacts a lot of the other businesses, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, I screwed up because I did it too fast. And that's the perfect point is like, let it take it slowly, because retail business is very cutthroat.
It is.
It's very cutthroat.
I can imagine. Like you'd be relying heavily on volumes rather than margins.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. In any wholesale business, I think that is the case.
That's right.
Right. As an attachment to the retail business itself. If somebody identifies that there is a certain brand from their country that is not available in the market as yet, and they want to bring something in. Is it a viable option to do something like that, or you would just get eaten up by the larger wholesalers in the market?
Look, there have been many instances where popular products, I'll give you a fine example. I won't name names because I'll get in trouble. Like banana chips. There was a company that made banana chips from South India. One person started it, and he was a medium-sized wholesaler, and a large company contacted them and just pretty much took them out. It happens all the time. So a lot of the large wholesalers that have exclusivity on brand, they want to keep that protected, because that's like their core bread and butter. You know, because that's what's bringing it in. So for someone who's starting out, I guess it's built more on relationship and what type of relationship you build with a company. Because we look, in any business, we've been burnt before. We've dealt with companies, and then all of a sudden, and we worked exclusively, and all of a sudden you had 2 other 3 players bringing the same thing, and we're like, hey, what's going on? We're exclusive. So look, that's part of business, unfortunately, that risk.
So when you're in contact with a wholesaler, if you have an account with a wholesaler, do the wholesalers impose some kind of conditions on you that you can exclusively buy these brands only from us, or do they, or that you can only deal with us?
No. They know in the market that they're what we call parallel product. So parallel means that it's not an export pack. So what export pack means that the company has produced that specifically for that company, that wholesale company here in Australia to distribute around. Then you have a parallel product which comes directly from India, which me or you or anyone can, let's say, stock up a container and bring it over if you know what you're doing. And that will be local stock that people can buy from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh right from the shelf. So the only difference there will be the batches will be different. The packaging might look different, but it's the same product.
But it wouldn't have that exported label.
It won't have. It will have your exported label.
It
will have your, say, imported by.
Your corporation, whatever
your
company.
Corporation. So companies tend to, much of the larger companies, they tend to make a different product, like it's in different packaging for export. Out of the country.
Right.
So to differentiate that's an export pack and that's a local stock.
I've wondered about that, because you go to the store sometimes and you it's the same product, but one of them has that tag, the export product tag, and the other one doesn't.
But wholesalers here who have exclusivity, they'll never say you can't, like they won't impose any restriction. But they will definitely say, look, support us as we're doing the right thing, bringing it in. Which happens all the time. But sometimes they get out of stock, so you have to buy from the parallels. So that's part of business.
Sure. Interesting. I feel like I need a lot of time to absorb a lot of the stuff that's coming, because it's like one point after the other, and obviously it's a whole other dimension. It's a whole different field to try and understand all of it. But I'll get there slowly but surely.
You'll notice now every time you go into a store.
Exactly. Like a lot of the stuff that you normally wouldn't notice walking into a store. You know, now it starts to make sense for you. Okay. So to wrap up, in summary, Harry, I would ask, as a business owner, as a retail business owner, ethnic groceries. One question that I have is that is the potential in Australia for ethnic groceries? How do you see it growing in the next 10 to 15 years?
Look, the way the immigration's going in the next 10, 15 years, it's only going to grow with it, along with it. Like you made a point earlier before, people rely on those ethnic stores where you can go and buy everything in the one location, right? You'll probably see a lot of people will realize that Woolworths and Coles and a lot of the large, corporations, they are stocking ethnic products.
Ethnic products now. There are like ethnic sections in Woolies now.
Which 15 years ago you wouldn't find that. Now you'll see a large range, and they're growing that range, and you'll find a lot of that. But still, people will still have that love, and I guess going to somewhere familiar, talking to someone familiar of your own background or own community. To make a particular dish, for example. You can't do that in Coles or Woolies.
And look, 100% of the products that you might find in ethnic stores, you can't find them in Woolies or Coles. Like you'd find a few of them, the major ones. You might find like dry items and spices and stuff.
That's right.
But not everything.
Not everything.
And to be honest, the range of spices that we have it's in itself a whole complete catalog.
That's right. You could probably, the amount of products that come out of our South Asian market, right? You could probably have a shop as large as Coles and still
Store everything.
and store. You still probably need more space.
So that's an interesting point. I've thought about it sometimes. So as immigration is going and the number of people coming in, do you think that eventually one brand of ethnic store will emerge like a Woolies or a Coles? Do you think there's potential for a chain?
There is a potential, because it's like that happened in Canada, US. There are chains here. I mean, look at Rade.
They're doing really well.
They're doing really well. So look, as immigration grows, their business will grow as well as a chain. So we us personally, we haven't looked at the chain franchising model. So we're not that far yet. Maybe we will be soon. But look,
do you think
that's something that's on our list, on our plan.
Franchising,
if it works out, look, if it's time to execute, because it's all the time for execution, right? But look, next 10, 15 years, immigration definitely, prices will go up, housing will go up. Don't know when it's going to come down, but also, there's going to be a lot of variety of food, which is good.
Which is good.
More people coming in means more different food, variety of foods.
More demand for food.
More demand for food. Because, like, that's another point you said, it connects people. So I might eat Korean food tonight. Yeah. But it's me connecting with going to a Korean Asian restaurant. You know?
Exactly.
Connecting with that community.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
I'm a huge foodie myself. Yeah. And I firmly believe that food is one of the very few things. Food, music, art in general, is one of the very few things that bind humanity together. That's right. With all of the hundreds of thousands of things that set us apart. Yeah. These are some of the things that every human being can relate to. Yeah. Yeah. Food plays definite huge part. Right. So I normally end the podcast with the one nugget of truth that life has ever taught you. So Harry Kohli, the mic's yours.
One nugget of truth.
One nugget of truth that life has taught you that you can pass on to people.
Again, this is going to be a very cliche. One nugget of my truth is always just keep learning. Yeah, that's as simple as it gets. Like, I learn from my dad. I learn from my mom. I learn from my missus. I learn from my friends. Like, you keep learning different things. Yep. And it's for you to, I guess, judge, can you use that in your everyday life or not? It could be anything. It's not just food. It could be, skateboarding out one night or something. I don't know. Like, it
can be anything.
It could be computers. Like I know how to build computers, for example. I can do that. Or you can do video editing, You wouldn't have not done that before. Yeah. So I would say keep learning is that one nugget of truth in life. Just never stop stagnating your mind. Yeah. Perfect. That's a beautiful point on which to end the podcast on. If anybody would like to get in touch with Harry or myself for any kind of advice, I'll be leaving the links to his profile and to Singh's Food Warehouse as well in the description for this video. Also, if you guys haven't already done it, here are the links for all of our social media accounts. You guys can follow them. Kindly also take a second out of your time to hit that subscribe button and help us grow our channel. I firmly believe that conversations like these with an ever-growing migrant community, not just in Australia, but in all other parts of the world, conversations like these do matter, and these are conversations that are worth having and propagating. And on that point, until next time, this has been In The Gap. I have been Hussain, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.